Good morning, gentlemen. I'm going to talk to you today on something very sensational. When I got up in the morning, I didn't believe my ears, my eyes, when I heard and saw that a ceasefire has been accepted by Donald Trump, when only yesterday he had started and was breathing fire and brimstone that he would destroy Iran. And today he agreed for a pause of 20 days. ये बहुत ही सरप्राइजिंग बात है कि ये हो गया एंड लेट अस एनालाइज क्या हो सकता है. द फर्स्ट थिंग वी मस्ट रिमेंबर इज दैट दिस वॉर मीन्स इफ इट हैज़ एंडेड इज ए डिफीट फॉर डोनाल्ड ट्रंप. और मैंने एक पुराना वीडियो भी बनाया था विच यू मस्ट हैव सीन where I had said that Donald Trump would be the last American president. Now, if you look at it from that angle, I think by his actions, Donald Trump is going to make my prophecy come true. Donald Trump indeed would be the last American president. When I mean last, I mean effective president. क्योंकि इसके बाद अमेरिका की power in the world is going to go down. And America जो है will be in the same position like Russia, become an important power. अब मुझे ये बात समझ में नहीं आई why America really launched this war, because none of their objectives have been met. The first objective was regime change. They killed the top leadership, but the regime could not be changed. They thought Iran would be militarily defeated. They could not defeat it, though they had complete control over the air. They had put in their best fighters, the F-22, F-35, B-1, B-2 bombers, B-52, and of course the famous rockets and missiles all lined up, but nothing happened. The Iranians fought very well. I will say very well का मतलब ये है कि बहुत अच्छा लड़े वो, because there was an intense patriotism in them. And I think the icing on the cake was when the Americans realized that if they bombed the various power plants and railway stations, they would be killing thousands of civilians. Because your regime थी, ये clergy regime, it had decided, it appealed to the people कि आप बाहर निकलिए, go to the bus stations, to the railway stations, the power stations with your children and surround it, so that the Americans, if they kill you all, then only they can destroy the power stations. मेरे ख्याल में this was too much for Donald Trump, and so he called off this fight for the time being. पर इसके बहुत रिपरकशन सीरियस हैं. पहला रिपरकशन तो ये है कि पाकिस्तान जो है has now become the linchpin of Western Asia. And General Munir and Shahbaz Sharif, I would say General Munir more, or as we say Field Marshal, he's definitely covered himself with glory. And now the world is realizing that he is the Vishwa Guru, and it's very sad that Mr. Narendra Modi, who was all the time shouting from the rooftops that he is the Vishwa Guru and the Vishwa Mitar, I mean, he's nowhere. It's a very sad occurrence that Modi could not exert his influence anywhere at all. And now the entire Sunni world, right from Bahrain down to Saudi Arabia and the UAE, will be dependent on Pakistan for survival. Iran, of course, has suffered tremendous damage, total destruction. But it is to their courage that they fought, and they fought very well. और इसका जो रिजल्ट है अभी is going to be very disastrous as far as America is concerned, and it's going to be more disastrous for Israel. Now, Israel, as you know, is not recognized by the Arab world other than 3 or 4 nations who have signed the Abraham Accord, and Iran is vociferous in saying that Israel has no right to exist in this world. If that is the case, it's a very terrible situation. If Iran goes against with its threat, and the Iranians have given nothing away, they have claimed victory, and they have said that all their demands have been met. They would still control the Strait of Hormuz, number one. Number two, they said we will still enrich our uranium. And number three, they have said we will not surrender. Now, this is all despite the massive bombing which was launched by the Americans and the Israelis. Of course, the Israelis fought better than the Americans. They didn't lose a single aircraft in their operations over Iran. But it's a very sad occurrence that the principles of war, rather air warfare, as enunciated by Ghuliat the Houth, has been totally negated by the Americans. I mean, they failed to capitalize on what has been stated by Ghuliat the Houth, that air warfare is the decisive component in a battle in the modern age. And despite having complete superiority over Iran, air superiority in the sense that fighters and bombers could go and bomb any place in Iran because there is no opposition, the Iranian Air Force had been destroyed, yet the Americans had to throw in the towel. I think Donald Trump himself would be feeling that it's a big blow to his prestige, and he'll have to go very slow now in trying to conquer Cuba or Colombia. And even later on, like his security chief, Tulsi Gabbard had said that our next attempt will be to finish up Pakistan. It's not going to be easy. Pakistan suddenly become like God for the Middle East, and the Iranian regime has really thanked Pakistan for all the help they have done. And they haven't thanked India, because the Indians were sitting on the fence, that's the problem. And Modi himself, I think we Indians in a habit of inflating our leaders quite a bit. And we have what is known the Andbhakt, kept on talking that Modi is the bishop guru and all sorts of nonsense when he's nothing. He's been sitting here quietly and he didn't know which side to join. I think if I was in Modi's boots, I would have joined the Americans and even if required sent troops into Iran. But he didn't do that. And he kept sitting on his haunches like Humpty Dumpty. And Pakistan has stolen the cake and eaten it also. Now the result of this war is going to be very disastrous if this peace is lasting, because Iran will rise again like the phoenix. The phoenix was a dead bird which was burnt to ashes and it rose from the ashes, and it's going to be something like that. And once Iran rises again, I think the days of the monarchies which exist in the Middle East and Israel are numbered. And America, having shown that it cannot fight, it cannot sustain casualties, no way that Iran will not become the supreme leader in the Middle East. So, gentlemen, let's be very clear that what is happening is not good for India also. The victory by Iran over America and the Gulf states is a matter of sadness for India. Of course, Pakistan will be cock-a-hoop because they're a nuclear power and they can brandish it, and they say we'll bring about peace in the Middle East. We'll guarantee peace. I think that's what they have said. And Donald Trump willy-nilly has to say, yes, sir, 3 bags full. See, the biggest thing which Donald Trump wanted is regime change. That didn't happen. And I'm surprised it didn't happen because they wiped out more than 100 top leaders in the top rung, the top tiers of the Iranian political and military leadership. And yet, the Americans were nowhere disposing of the regime. Generally, the feeling which even I had was that the people in Iran are not in club with their clergy regime. Maybe about 10 or 15% were against them, but I think the bulk of them are with the clergy regime of the Ayatollahs and the mullahs. And the net result, as you can see, is that they have survived, and it is the Americans who have to throw in the towel. Now, what is possible? The Americans had a tremendous force, almost, I think, they had 70 to 80,000 soldiers in the Gulf. They had 4 aircraft carriers. They had complete superiority over the air, that is called a favorable air situation, and Iran had been finished militarily. All they were left were with the missiles and drones and some rockets. which they had planned for 40 years to use, and they were using them very well. And they had crevices, underground tunnels, bunkers where these were hidden, and they used them to deadly effect. And even now, after the ceasefire, they carried out a massive bombing, a last farewell bombing of Israel and the UAE and Saudi Arabia. And obviously, the only retaliation came from Israel. Now, the Arabs, the GCC states must also think that just relying for their defense today on Pakistan or America is not what's going to help them. They have to build up their own army, their own military to fight. And the days when I think Salahuddin led the Arab armies against the Christians, that's all over. And now these people are just indolent, unable to fight. And the Iranians fought tooth and nail. And Donald Trump really, I think he's let me down, honestly. I thought he was a very astute man, the way he had handled the Venezuela crisis, but that's about all. He couldn't handle this Iranian crisis. And he had the most favorable situation in which Russia and China had withdrawn, and even North Korea was getting a little jittery. They're not going to support Iran. But the Iranians said, never say die. They said, we're not going to surrender. And this is where the Americans lost. They didn't have the will to fight. That's the crux thing. When you don't have the will to fight, you can't fight. The Americans had the will to fight in Vietnam 10 years, Afghanistan 20 years, Korea 4 years. They fought. But here there was no fight at all. Nothing. After 40 days, Donald Trump threw in the towel. As far as the European powers are concerned, as I've already told you, they are in eclipse. They are over. And they'll be very happy to just survive and live their life, And now, I think once Iran rises, as I told you, it will be like the phoenix. I think Israel's days are numbered. And even the amirs and the caliphs and the kings sitting in Saudi Arabia and other places, the UAE, Bahrain, and Qatar and Sector are going to have a very, very tough time, gentlemen. It's going to be a very, very tough time for them. Let's see how the world shapes. I hope you like my channel. Please share it with your friends. I'm as shocked as you are. It's been a very surprising thing which has happened. We do not know what's going to be in the future. 20 days is a fair amount of time. Let us see what is going to happen. Well, gentlemen, there's always a silver lining to the cloud. One can hope that there'll be peace in the world, but there'll be no peace. I'm pretty sure about it, absolutely. Because Iran, after this victory, is going to be cock-a-hoop. They're not going to accept anything short of total dominance of the Persian Gulf and the Straits of Hormuz. They're not going to accept anything less than that. And that is the crux of the issue, gentlemen. That is the crux of the issue. Domination of the Persian Gulf, that means control of the oil. And Donald Trump had set his heart on controlling the oil, and he's failed. He's come a cropper, knocked out by a karate cut from the Iranians. I will close now, gentlemen. I hope you like my video. Please share it with your friends. I've given you a perspective that America is no longer the global power. It's a very sad situation, but can't be helped. Times change, civilizations change, empires change. The end of the American empire has come. Let's face up to it. And sadly, India doesn't fill the bill, and the country which is going to rise up with this is Pakistan. Goodbye, gentlemen. God bless you all. I hope you like my video. Please share with your friends and come back again. It will be a pleasure to interact with you all. And there's nothing much you can do. Goodbye and God bless.